My name is Monica Gleberman, and you're listening to Silence on Set podcast. For today's podcast, we have Grace Caroline Currey, who plays Becky in a new movie called Fall, which is currently available on Amazon. The film is about two best friends, Becky and Hunter, whose life is all about conquering their fears and pushing limits. However, after they climb 2,000 feet to the top of a remote, abandoned radio tower, they find themselves stranded with no way down. So here is Grace to talk about her experience filming and what it was like really being that high up off the ground. Hi, I'm so happy to talk with you today.
Oh, me too.
Okay, so I'm just going to jump in. How did you first off get the role of playing Becky?
This is pandemic times, which I'm sure I'm going to repeat stuff that Scott probably told you, but it's nice to know he laid the framework. It was pandemic, and we were in quarantine, couldn't audition in person. And normally in these conditions, I've been doing a lot of self tapes, and I was doing a lot of self tapes, but sometimes you get sent a script and you get to meet with the director, and my gosh, that's the best, because I'm such a like, please don't make me perform for you. Can we talk? Can we talk about the creative aspect of this? I was sent the script, read through it in one sitting, one night, couldn't stop flipping the pages, and was really in awe with what I had read and wondered if I had the ability to act what I had read, but also was so curious how they were going to do it. I'm a little bit of a film nerd, so I was already imagining the shots and the scenes and the stunts and what would be required of the actors who would be getting it. But then I got to meet with Scott, and we had a lovely chat. Kind of off the bat, seemed to have very similar personalities. And kind of convinced him that a chemistry read would be really delightful, as opposed to having to audition and it just be me, because so much of it is the dynamic between Hunter and Becky. And he was like, I guess, yeah, I really talked about how much I hate auditioning. Not a great way to sell yourself, as an actor, but we were talking about all sorts of stuff, and he said, yeah, I think we should do a chemistry read. I got a list of actors I'd be chemistry reading with, and a bunch of other people read for Becky, of course, and Hunter. So there was all these different groupings that they had kind of worked out. And I messaged each of the actresses on Instagram and said, hi, we're going to be acting together in a couple of days. Do you want to rehearse these scenes at all? Do you want to just meet and chat? Virginia Gardner, Ginny, she responded within minutes. And we actually had 2 FaceTime calls before we hopped on a Zoom with Scott for our audition. And she just, I think there was a compatibility there off the get-go with our work style, and also our interpretation of Hunter and Becky. I think we really just got each other. So yeah. And then from there, I found out a couple days later. I was in Colorado with my husband, and we were on a little hike. Got a text from Ginny saying, have you heard the news? And I was like, no. She's like, you should hear from your team, but it's good news for us. And I just freaked out in the woods of Colorado.
Oh, that's amazing. It's so nice to hear that you messaged them, because I interviewed like a lot of people, and when I asked them, how'd you get it? You never hear that, where someone like went out of their way to kind of just make sure everybody felt comfortable, you feel comfortable. And I think it's just a nice, like, fair way of working with other actresses. So that's so nice that you reached out.
I think because it was over Zoom. I mean, a lot of the time where it's like you're showing up to a chemistry read, I've had times where I don't know who I'm reading with, but because they gave me names, I could stalk and I could find them and hunt them down. And I did feel a little bit more driven to do it because it was a Zoom, and it's so hard with Zooms and acting to, I don't know, the chemistry, it's tricky sometimes over this computer to act these scenes that are supposed to be in person.
Well, let me tell you, you guys did such a good job. And what was so funny is, obviously the movie has like multiple layers. I don't think I'm giving anything away. There's like tragedy that kind of like starts off the movie and that kind of kicks off everything. And within the trailer, so again, I think I'm spoiler free here. You got like, there's 2 women. So it's Becky and Hunter that end up kind of stuck on the top of this gigantic kind of landmark, I guess, in the middle of nowhere in a town, and have to figure out how we're going to survive. What are we going to do, kind of thing. So when you're reading the script, you read it probably how I watched it. I was like this, and I kept moving in, and I was like freaking out. And then I was taking like mental notes, like, what could I do? And like, what would I do if I was in this situation? And all of these kind of things. So as an actress, as you're like flipping through and you're reading this, I know you mentioned you were like, how am I going to kind of like pull this off, or what am I going to do? What preparation did you take? Because 90% of this film, for people that will see it, takes place literally on the top of a platform, yet remains interesting. I mean, like, you don't lose it, you don't get bored. I mean, like, it's really good. So what did you do to prepare for that? Because I would imagine that's difficult to have most of your scenes literally in one location.
Oh yeah, no, you get it. You're picking up on what was difficult about shooting. I mean, there were a lot of difficulties, but that's something I talked to Scott about in our director's session. As I was like, I feel that there's a lot of discipline required to play Becky, and that gets me really excited as an actor. And I want to map out all of her emotions from, start to finish, because I know it's basically one location. I need to kind of know where she is emotionally at what point. So I can have sort of a map, a grid, a reference sheet, if you will, especially once we got out there. I thought it was going to be tricky, but holy cow, was it a weird disorientation to be in the same location every single day, filming out of order. You just don't have any landmarks or differentiation of the atmosphere, the room, to be able to go, oh, my character is in the last act of the movie. Oh, my character's in the scene where she is crying about this. It's all the same. So yeah, I mapped stuff out. Thankfully I have an athletic background, so I was already had a little bit of a foundation athletic wise. And I've done some indoor bouldering, and geeked out about that with Scott a bit. But ultimately, a lot of it was showing up to set, and you can prepare as much as you want, but set always has a different plan for you.
I know. Scott had said, like, so of course, one of the first questions, I'm sure he's going to get asked this constantly. Right away, I went, was that like legitimate, like where they were standing, or was that like a set, or what'd you guys do? And he was like, no, like we found it and like we threw them up there. So of course I was asking him, like, how do you direct? Are you like screaming? Are they like having you fly somewhere? Like, how are you doing that? And he kind of talked about the direction process, but then he mentioned while you guys were filming, there would be like planes that would fly by that were like below you. I mean, like that's how high up you guys were. So as like an actor, so like from your perspective, how do you handle that? Because you guys are standing on what I would assume is a pretty like small, what, like 8x8, I don't know, 12x12 square. You have planes flying literally below you. So you're literally that high in the sky. Acting, you have to remember all your lines, where you're at. So how does that work as from an actor perspective versus like for Scott, he was saying, he's like yelling, he's trying to talk through his mask, he's, trying to get up there to talk with you guys.
Oh
But
yeah.
how do you prepare, and how do you get the most, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, out of those scenes that you're working on in those conditions?
Poor Scott, he heard a lot of what from Ginny and I, because we're like, what did he say? Which granted, we have mics on, right? As actors, we're mic'd. So I kept forgetting that I could literally go, Scott, what do you want? Oh, okay. I kept yelling for everyone's ears because he's down there. It's just human nature. If someone's far away from you, you yell. Which that was another element, was trying not to lose our voices, right? Especially with anything that has a horror element where there's screaming or there's high energy. So much of it was like, I was hyperventilating at times just from, you're doing so much panicked breathing, and especially Becky climbing up the tower and her fighting an anxiety attack the whole time. I was getting dizzy, man. It was in the heat. It was something else. But no, to answer your question, I think there was just so much mental flexibility from Ginny and I and the entire crew. With, you just, like I said, you can prepare as much as you want, but when you actually are there, it hits you. Like it hit us that we were going to be really high up. The winds pick up really strong. The towers swing. Ginny and I are looking at each other going, what do we get ourselves into? Is this how we die? Oh my gosh. What the heck is going on? Yeah, it was just do or die, fight or flight, just full immersion. Every day we were showing up to work and just tackling some sort of wild thing. I don't know. I really feel like we went and we're going for days. When we wrapped, I was like a little shell of a human. It was great.
You're like, and I want to go to bed now.
Yeah, for a long time.
So does that make it easier to get into character because you're literally living it, or does that make it harder because you're like, okay, I'm not me, I have to be Becky, like I have to like take myself out? So is it easier or harder by like literally being in that position?
Oh gosh, you're getting technical on me, and I want to give a really technical answer, but I don't want to take too much time. So I think when we wrapped, I actually had a little bit of a confrontation with myself of my acting method. And I felt that I had maybe been a little too method by utilizing my own emotions, a lot of it, which spent me so much. And I did have a little bit of a mirror chat, if you will, with myself of going, are you professional actress? Do you know how to like fabricate it? Like, don't you need to learn how to disconnect and not own it so much? Because I was being very affected by Becky's sadness and how down she is. It was bringing me down at the end of the day, but it was also just natural because of the environment we were in with how much stunts and physicality and emotional strain there was, not to mention the heat and the dehydration. You do run the risk though as an actor of, there might be one scene in there where Grace is crying for real, maybe.
Yeah, because I would assume there's sort of like, and people don't talk about this, but there's like mental confusion, right? Like when you're an actor, even if you're given a script and you just show up and it's a studio or a fake set or whatever, when you're crying, your body doesn't know that you're not crying, right? And so like when you're, like you said, when you were climbing up to that part, and I want to ask you about that, but and
So
your
right.
character
So
has,
right.
yeah, like your character has panic attack, your body doesn't know that you're not having a panic attack, you're faking the panic attack. So a lot of times maybe it's a little easier to separate when it's a set where you get to like literally leave work, you take the clothes off, you leave work, you go home, but to literally be where your character is supposed to be on this tall thing in the middle of nowhere, I would assume would have been harder to separate at the end of the day. So obviously that was something that struck you.
You're speaking my language. Because the wild thing is an anxiety attack, right, is a physical reaction. A lot of it is a physical response to thoughts we have or an environment that triggers something. So a lot of the time when I have to act an anxious scene, I know what physical triggers I have when I'm having an anxiety attack. And if I initiate those physical responses, whether it's heavy breathing, panicked feelings, I'll just put myself into an anxiety attack. It's great. And we're rolling and we got the scene. But it's so much of it is physical. And just like you said, your body doesn't know that it's not real. Yes, there was a physical toll. I don't know if it would have been different on a soundstage necessarily when I think of the scenes that we acted, because regardless, when doing emotional scenes, it's just draining. It just is. Which I've been in places with draining scenes before where I'm crying and it's like, this is the one place where they're expecting me to cry for work. Here we go. We're rolling. They're coming. The tears are coming. I'm tired. There's no tears left, but they're gonna roll out. But what was really fun for me, because I've cried in a lot of my work and I'm tired of crying. I don't want to cry anymore. I think it's a boring choice. What was really fun for me was she is in a scenario where she'd be tearing up. She is in a scenario, Becky, where she's going to be upset. It was so fun trying to come up with every different way a human could feel that level of emotion. That was really fun for me. I was geeking out about that.
Well, it's so funny you should say that, because when I was watching it, and again, I watch it from like sort of like a skewed perspective, right? Because I'm a journalist, so I'm like looking at it. When I was watching it, I kept going, it must have been so fun as an actor to try to come up with different ways of how a person just would naturally, one, react, right? And then two, we want this to be interesting. You're stuck on there for 90% of the film, which it is. Like I said, I was literally leaning into it because I had to watch it on my computer. Scout's like, you got to go to the movie theater. I'm like, I know, like I cannot wait to go see it again. but I was like almost gripping the computer because I was just like, like what's happening? And like, you're so like invested. I think even at one point I was like, I'm like a little like, whoa, like I had to like back up a little bit because I even like started feeling like a little bit of like the height. And I was going, oh my God, like I was very into it. And I was wondering how you guys, when you're sitting up there, these two girls, obviously the natural reaction is to figure out like what you could possibly do and how you can kind of get out of it. So for you as an actor, was that like also something fun and challenging that you were able to kind of work through?
I think it was really cool. I personally back the characters' choices in this. I understand why they're doing everything that they're doing. And sometimes when we watch this genre, it's built on you sitting back and going, why did they do that? But I actually do. I back their choices in trying to survive. They really are being as resourceful as you could possibly be in that scenario. And they're operating, I think, truthfully under a state of fight or flight, being up on that tower and having small windows of time where they could be rescued, and trying to make the most of that window of time and be logical and with such limited resources. So yeah, I guess that was a really fun element. I felt like I was playing an intelligent character. Sometimes female characters are written in a very divisive way, where they're meant to drive the plot by and the choices they make is, or characters in general, right? Making stupid choices drives the plot. But I really enjoyed having choices made from a place of them really using their intelligence, their ingenuity as much as they could. That was really rewarding and really special.
Yeah, and I'm running out of time and I'm like, shoot, because I had so many more questions for you. But yeah,
So
but I definitely agree. Like in terms of the female aspect, it's much more of a female empowerment movie. It's like these women are fully capable in trying to save themselves, without giving anything away. And the stuff that they do definitely moves along the plot. And like I said, it's very intriguing. There is no takeaway. It went so fast when I was watching it. I loved all of it. So I just want to end, I guess, with two questions really quickly, which was just how was it working? Obviously, I know we spoke a little bit about Virginia, but how is it working with her? How is it working with Jeffrey, which we only see a little bit, but we get to see him. How is that? And then what would you tell fans to go and why they should go see this movie?
Jeffrey Dean Morgan. I've watched him on Supernatural, and he's plays a great dad in that. Very different than his role in The Walking Dead, and he just really crushes that element of a paternal figure. And I was really excited because he was one of the first people to be cast. I was like, "Ooh, maybe I could be cast as his daughter. That'd be cool. We have similar coloring. That'd be really neat." So I was really keen to get to have him in this, and he pulls on my heartstrings. I'm like, Becky, listen to your dad. Just gosh, Becky. Yeah, he's a total pro, and was so great with all the COVID issues. And it was such a different time of working when we shot all that. And um, he was awesome. And Ginny, Ginny, my lovely Ginny, she was just so inspiring. And I think she really kept my morale up because she wanted to give 100%. I think we had a really healthy level of like competitiveness, if you will, where it's like I'd see her crush it on her stunt in the morning, and it only encouraged me to like bring 100% as well. And I think we kept each other. I think we kept each other like having good integrity on set, if that makes sense. There was a really good level of integrity, I think, from her. And I think I helped stay on track too, just having that teammate. I couldn't have had a better person. And I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful that it was her. I just don't even want to imagine if it had been anyone else. But why should people see it in theaters? Holy cow, it's huge. I mean, the whole thing is so immersive, and you were moving towards your screen, just wanting to get in it more. And what a better environment than sitting in a dark room with a massive screen to just take you over. And if you're scared, bring a group, have your friend there so that they can laugh at you when you're screaming and you're jumping out of your seat. But no, I think it's so special that it's a movie that gets you in your body, gets your palms sweating, your heart racing. And I do think there's a massive payoff at the end. I think it's a really satisfying story as a whole. Um, so go have some fun and be freaked out and watch Fall in theaters with a group. That's what I gotta say.
Well, I want to thank you so much. Like I said, I literally could have gotten into every single thing. I wanted to talk to you about the poll, like so
Oh
many more things.
gosh.
But you were so good in this movie. And this movie relies solely on amazing acting. I mean, just like end of story. Like, I mean, there's directing, there's a million other people, yes, that are involved in making this movie what it is. And I'm not downplaying their roles at
Yeah.
all. But it really comes down to, can these two women keep you entertained, invested? You guys nailed it. Like it like flew by, and I was just like, what's happening? And I was just emotional. It was like a roller coaster. I was just invested. I was also, I banked some tools of like, if I ever get stuck somewhere, like things that I can do that I never would have thought of. So I was like, that's a
Oh
great idea.
yeah.
So I banked some of that in there. So I just
Good.
want to like thank you, because I don't know if anyone else could have pulled it off like that. And just congratulations. You were amazing.
Thank you.
So I have so much more to say, but you were
I
fantastic.
had so much fun. Thank you.
Have a great rest of the day. Hope you guys enjoyed listening to Grace talk about what it was like filming the movie Fall, which is currently available now on Prime Video. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you're updated on all of our latest podcasts, and head over to our YouTube channel and hit subscribe so you're updated on all of our video content.